Hey there folks, SeKo Starcraft here, bringing you a Gold League amateur replay with Rashid up against SanDTox, our hero up here in the top left, who sent me one of his replays. He's actually sent me a few. Wanted me to go through it, see if I can pick up a couple of tips and stuff in there to help him out with his game a little bit. A little bit delayed in the response, but had some vacation time, got a puppy, and my life's just all over the place. Anyways, having a beer, go through some replays, see what's going on. Hope you're enjoying a drink with me. So, if we're looking for some advice out of a game like this, I haven't played as much Zerg recently. The openings for Zerg, I think, are quite important. This is a 3-player map, so I don't fault people for wanting to open up with, say, a pool first or something, just to be a little bit more defensive. We see up to 15 drones. Down on the other side of the Terrans, just got a standard wall going up, and no gas, though, so it might be going for faster expansion. So we do have a hatch first, which is nice. It's great when you can get away with that. I like sending out a worker really early to scout, but that's because I'm a giant pussy, and I'd like to know what other people are doing before I make too many decisions on things. So this drone's coming down here. I think, yeah, first, to be able to see exactly where the Terran is. The reason why I like scouting really soon is because that way I'm going to know if there's going to be 2 racks or something like that, which is still so unbelievably popular. Particularly on a 3-player map, sometimes putting 2 racks right in the middle, people don't expect you to go cheese on them when it's a bigger map. We had gas down, and we have a pool on the way. It'll be a while before that speed can start, but in the Terran matchup, it's really nice to get that speed down. The interesting thing when he came up here to scout is they saw there was a Marine out, so you've got to expect that because it's not a Reaper opening then, that there will be potentially no gas in the main. So he's rushing to something. That's either to get out his other command center, 2 racks in this case, which I haven't seen a good 3 racks opening in a while, or to be able to tech up to something like a factory. So it's very important to have those overlords starting to move into position, because scouting as a Zerg player is too important. You're just going to want to sit at home and drone up if you have every choice. Terran player is going to come in here, expand. Speed is on the way, queens. We'll see if we get any extra queens. I'm starting to work in more queens into my composition now, just because they help out with so many different situations. Reaper play, banshees, fast push-outs. This is a really interesting build here by Rashid. He's bringing a few SCVs with him, which could work really well. Speedlings would still tear this to absolute shreds. And he does have a drone here, so he should see this coming. So you see a push-out like this with workers, you have to give it a fair bit of respect. Spine crawlers for me, they're nice, but hitting your injects and just getting out a lot of lings will deal with this quite well. Spine crawlers take so long to get down that it's quite challenging. Baneling nest is on the way, but that's kind of desperation. That won't be anywhere near done in time to be able to help this. Queens, on the other hand, will do quite well. He's pulling some drones already, and I'm not too sure if he needs to. Obviously, he wants to deflect as well, but losing a bunch of drones here is actually pretty costly. He has larva and money. We can see that right now. I'm going to pause it for a second. SanDTox hasn't been spending his larva and stuff. He's going to deflect the shirks of the spine crawlers. But if he had managed to get out, let's say, 10 speedlings, he'd be able to actually pick off every single unit back across the map and probably cancel this base. Moving into static defenses like this and a baneling nest are limiting you in a sense, right? They're keeping you at home. They're keeping it more difficult for you to do anything. Even if you brought SCVs, his bunkers would be a long ways off being able to support you. Spine crawlers are nice, but spend that extra money. That's, what, 8 more lings you can get out instead of the spine crawlers? And you can put pressure on with those as well. And unfortunately, he lost a good chunk of workers. Rashid lost a bunch of workers as well at the same time. Save the queen. Good transfuse. Might keep picking away at these guys. Queens are quite tanky. See, at this point, once again, we do have the Zerglings finished up. They have speed. They should be able to start making their way across the map, picking up whatever units they can. Now we're getting back into drone production, which is great. Ramp up that drone production. We'll be fine. Terran player does a nice push. It allowed him to get up his base. Zerglings are pushing across the map, but there once again isn't that many Zerglings right now because he managed to get out more of the static defense. Did the Overlord come in here and scout? No, the Overlord hasn't come in yet. So the Zerg player doesn't really know where he's standing. Might have been worthwhile to run those Zerglings past just to see if an expansion is down. Still has the watchtower, but you might as well take that drone home to start actually getting you money. Put a Zergling out there, something like that. I do like that SanDTox isn't panicking about getting down another base just yet. You don't really need to worry about getting that third hatchery. Macro hatch, it's very interesting, because he's got larva. You really need that macro hatch if you aren't getting the larva that you need right now. So if you keep up with your injects, with this amount of drone saturation, should be able to deal with what's coming at you. He does scout this once again with the drone on the watchtower. And in this case, I think getting out more queens would have probably been just as effective as another spine crawler. Having the transfuses in place are really, really good to help out your defenses. Units-wise, we can see that the Zerg player's got a bit of a lead when it comes to the workers, but now he's forced to make more Zerglings. And that's a great move here by Rashid, is using this bit of force, even if he doesn't attack with it. He's forced out so much in terms of stack defense and, you know, attacking units instead of drones. Quite smart. And even a third base going down. See, I like this about Terran players who are playing aggressive. As a Zerg player, you really got to make a decision how you're going to commit. Either you're going to commit hard into economy and take that risk, or you commit really hard into getting a bunch of units out, like Zerglings, and controlling the map. And we can see that there's almost no defenses in place for the Terran player. I don't think these guys even have stim. They don't have stim. Not the best Baneling hits. A little bit better. Just keeping up with the injects and the production. You can see all that money that's not being spent right now from the Zerg player. If we look at the units wise, well, he doesn't have that much. He just built a whole bunch of, what did he just make? A whole bunch of Zerglings. There we go. That's what I was about to say. You've got that much larva. Go and be on the offensive here. Go see where you're at. Because the Terran player on 3 bases unchallenged is going to get pretty good lead. But all he's relying on is unupgraded units here. We do see a Spire on the way. I think that is very important, and even more static defenses. This is how I usually play Zerg. Like, I panic that something's going to happen, so I put down a bunch of static defenses. Making more agile units like this is going to help you out a lot in the long run. Maybe get extra queens if you're worried about taking out medevacs. But you're going to need the ground units to be able to deal with the rest. Nobody's cared at all about upgrades at this point. Terran player is going to be killing it in income right now. Yeah, he's got a pretty good lead. It's enough Marines that they should do a pretty good job against this. Good surrounds. Quite a bit of damage here. So this is perfect. Now, this is where you got to decide, should I follow up with more attacking units? Splits off some of his Zerglings here. There we go. There's some more attacking. Oh, the planetary is going to be finished, though. And that's why you need out those Mutas. You might actually get this still. We'll keep an eye on this planetary. Let's see how close down it gets. No, not going to get that close. It's a planetary, after all. Oh, he's making the Banelings. Why not? So, if we look at the units tab now, we can see that the Terran player's actually gotten a lead. And this is the difficulty I run into with playing Zerg, is I've made so many units, but I really don't have that good of economy. If you can get up to, 70 or 80 drones, you can do a lot with Zerg. But if you're sitting down somewhere, around 50 or less, like 40, you start wondering why you just haven't been able to produce things. Baneling speed still isn't in place. Good hit on those SCVs, that's for sure. I do like the Mutas out, even if it's a small amount. You can be using these Mutas to start putting pressure on the Terran player. Just go, start doing some damage, keep them at home. Though you do want to make sure that you do the best you can with what you do have. More stack defenses. I'd say this is a big thing that you can focus on. Don't worry as much about the stack defenses until you have a sick amount of economy. Once you put the pressure on the Terran, then they're going to start going for drops. But until then, don't worry about spending all that money. 4 spine crawlers, 400 minerals. That could be going into more Mutas, or more lings. Something else, right? Now that medevacs are out, it's going to be very hard to take this on straight away. He knows that this planetory's down here. I'm surprised he's not using his Mutas to at least put some pressure on. It's just a free base. There's not much going on right now. These 4 spine crawlers, once again, could have been another 8 drones. If you want to get a good chance to see what you're at, just go a little swipe over your mineral line. You can see that you don't even fill up a full page with your drones. You're not really where you need to be. All the Mutas died. Mutas should never be used to fight Marines, in a sense, right? They're not there to do that. He's dropping his units anyways. This is kind of interesting. It might work for the Terran still. Very surprising that that almost worked out. The Terran hasn't been aggressive in a long time, and this is where, as a Zerg player, you have to understand when to drone up. Just 2 big runs of drones would have held a ton. I'm not going to talk too much about creep spread. There's always room to improve with creep spread. But we can see the Zerg player really wants to keep the pressure on, but he's not doing enough damage. The Terran is slowly getting further and further ahead. Stim is finished. 1-1 is on the way with combat shields. Like, he's just not quite getting enough done here. Might get that missile turret. The Terran player is not repairing. Just gets it in time, but the Marines will be able to shoot this stuff away. Medevacs obviously are awesome. Runs back to Planetary Fortress. Very smart for the Terran player. Yeah, and we can see the Zerg players falling further behind in supply. It's just these problems start compounding, right? The longer you wait, or sorry, the less of an economy you have, you just can't be agile enough with your units. You can't really get the lead that you want. And even these small amounts of Terran units with medevacs and stim will do so good against Zerg players and these small groups of Zerglings and stuff. So it's a risk, but you have to take a risk of either fully committing to a huge army, seeing even more stacked defenses, or fully committing to drones. And we can see now in hindsight that there's been not a single drop by the Terran player in a long time. All these spine crawlers and spore crawlers could have been essentially another completely saturated base. Lots of banelings. I don't think it's going to be enough to take down the planetary. You need a lot to take down a planetary. Move command. Almost loses 1 Zergling. No defenses once again on this side. If he had kept his Mutas from the beginning of the game, like if you'd be up to about a Mutaflock of about 20, you have to treat Mutas like they're precious, made out of gold units. They die so fast, but they're so important to the Zerg play against bio armies that if you can get up to like 20 Mutas or so, the Terran can't drop you. It can't really go on these big counterattacks. Using them in these small skirmishes really is defeating their purpose. And even though these are good baneling hits, you can see that the Terran player really is not... Even if he lost all those Marines, he would still not be in a bad spot. His production is up and moving. As for the Zerg player, economy-wise, still only have 42 drones. About half of where he needed to be, and he could have been there, 8 or 9 minutes ago. Big pile of Zerglings coming out now. 1-1's going to finish up pretty soon for the Zerg player, but until then, he's actually down in upgrades, and this could be pretty bad for him. Base does get destroyed. 1-1's not quite finished. A bit of an anti-timing for the Zerg player. Once again, the Banelings are just... Sorry, the Zerglings are just going to get shredded by these 1-1 Stim Marines. Not going to get the surface area you need. And this is just good, simple, methodical play out of Rashid here. And it must seem very frustrating. Something is wrong. Lol. What? I just want to see what they're talking about for a second. I'll say what I think is wrong. Mules. Mules aren't... I'm just going to pause here. The mules aren't what really destroyed this. The Zerg player had a great opportunity after holding off that early pressure to just get right back into droning up and take an economy lead. Or commit fully to a counterattack, and he probably could have cancelled this initial base here. No, those are your options you have. But that constant streaming of just a handful of Zerglings and Mutas across the map, eventually, with shorter rallies and better upgrades, the Terran player is eventually going to take that game. You just don't have those overwhelming numbers. The only way the Zerg can overwhelm is if it's sitting on a really sick economy. We never saw the Zerg player get above 42 or 44 workers, and you're not going to keep up against a 3-base Terran as a 2-base Zerg with less workers. It doesn't matter. You know, it's unless you get really lucky, you just don't have that opportunity. You don't have the creep spread, you don't have the tech, so you got to pick some area and get an advantage. And Rashid played this out quite well. Played aggressive, took a lot of bases. A lot of room for his play to polish, of course. But the mules weren't the thing that was broken, particularly when it's the planetary fortress that was, you know, the other bases here. Anyways, those are some of my thoughts on the game. I think there's a lot of room there for SanDTox to be able to do something crazy and aggressive, maybe even using roaches, get his baneling speed out a bit sooner. But hey, we'll see him get a little bit better as the games go on. SeKo Starcraft, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll talk with you later.